When was the last time you encountered a place that gave you such happiness? When did you last watch the sunrise on top of a mountain? Or swim in a sea that's so warm and so blue and felt everything was good and right? When was the last time you went somewhere completely new? Somewhere away in the middle of the ocean, where everything feels different, thrilling, extraordinary, somewhere you haven't been before. This magnificent mass of earth that's embraced by the sea, where land, water, fire, and all the elements have been brewing an old rumbling magic for 25 million years, where nature breathes in its own pace right beneath your feet. When was the last time you walked in landscapes like this, feeling completely out of this world? Or went on an adventure through the mountains and evergreen forests? Hiked on trails that have been laid on the ground for centuries? See incredible coastal sceneries that hitherto existed only in your dreams? Savor the flavors and drink the wine of this island, and then walk on the vineyards where the grapes grow. Tell me, when was the last time a place like this reawakened all your senses? Isn't it incredible to soar in the sky and land in a corner of the earth to encounter a work of nature and man-made glory that humbles you and deepens you? An island that truly feels like a celebration of what it means to be alive. This island that inspired dreamers and adventurers to sail beyond the horizon and explore the mythical, majestic Madeira. The weeks, days, and hours I've spent in Madeira are some of the most memorable adventures in my life, and I don't say that lightly. This island has a way of coaxing you to do things you don't normally do in your daily life. Like waking up at the break of dawn to greet the sunrise. I sought out the expertise of a local guide who wanted to show us the real authentic Madeira. On our first day, we met the incredible Mr. Brito Freitas of Adventureland Madeira. Bom dia, good morning. You Brito?
Yes.
Very good to meet you. Excellent.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes, we are, yes. In no time, we were on board Brito's Jeep Wrangler as he drove us up on the hills of Funchal towards a darkened mountain, promising a Madeirense experience unlike any other. Good morning, guys. So, we are up in Pico do Arieiro and we're just walking towards a spot to watch the sunrise. I'm so excited. It's about 6 a.m. and we're just heading to a very secret peak. Our guide, Brito, is guiding us to somewhere really special. Let's see. Far from the madding crowd that have all journeyed to Madeira's highest mountain, Brito took us on a secluded spot where there's no one else but us, our small band of sunrise seekers, joined by the one and only Salvador de Sommelier and our friend Quinta. We climbed up here expectant of something that we rarely experience, a sight so vital and so pure, the sunrise in Madeira that will melt the hardest of souls. I can't think of any better introduction to Madeira than this, and it was such a joy to watch the sunrise here. Brito called this a moment, and it was extraordinary to witness a sight of nature, something we overlook and take for granted every day, here on top of this mountain, on top of this island, where nothing else mattered but this point in time, making the mundane feel like a magical moment to savor. A huge part of this tour is to take us on an off-road adventure across Madeira's peaks and summits, taking us through the off-the-beaten paths where tourists rarely go. And we were fortunate to be in Brito's fantastic tour, who went above and beyond, who knew the Madeira island like the back of his hand. Guys, we've done a sunrise tour, which was magical. There's nothing like it. Brito has shown us perhaps the best spot could ever be in this peak. Now we're going to a viewpoint, which most people go, and we're just surrounded by clouds everywhere. You can see. He showed us and walked us through the dizzying summits of Pico do Arieiro to the Miradouro de Funchal, with that breathtaking mountain scenery and taking in all the dramatic and heavenly views around us. And as if that glorious scenery wasn't enough, we walked right up to another viewpoint, gifted with a view of Madeira from up above, surrounded by mountain ridges and overlooking the beginning of a famous trail where hikers seek and dare to tread. And this was only the beginning of the adventure. For a small island, there is so much to see and experience in Madeira, and having a jeep at our duty makes for a perfect way of seeing Madeira, especially in the hard-to-reach parts of the island. From the mountainous heart of the island, we went to Ribeiro Frio, part of the municipality of Santana, set along the northern slopes. Brito drove us through forests, showed us around parks, and then introduced us to one of my favorite parts of this place, the great and verdant Laurisilva forest. This vast subtropical rainforest is beyond ancient. Here you walk in its primordial grounds, with over 20 million years of history and evolution beneath you and around you. Laurisilva occupies 20% of the island's topography, considered a living fossil and declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, calling it the largest surviving virtually extinct laurel forest in the world. And we get to experience this incredibly special place through this tour. We follow the Virada dos Balsões hiking trail, and here's something that we've learned. The Laurisilva ecosystem is largely undisturbed, except for one detail. Throughout this forest, you'll find what they call levadas. These ancestral hydraulic water channels built back in the 15th century during the first Portuguese settlement on the island, designed to carry and transport fresh water here from the northern rain-rich mountainous parts to the civilized southern parts of the island. There are over 200 levadas in this island, stretching to a network of over 2,200 kilometers of canals, pivotal to providing waterways to cultivation of farms and plantations in Madeira. And they also accompany walking trails, giving access to truly spectacular walks in these beautiful serene landscapes, surrounded with nothing but the tranquility of nature and the wealth of flora and fauna endemic to this island, like this bird, the Madeiran chaffinch. We follow this trail, the Levada Veria, overjoyed with a sense of peace and nature, and was then greeted by a glorious viewpoint, the Balsões, or balconies, overlooking a breathtaking view to the majestic valleys of Ribeira de Metade. Soon we pursued further ahead, exploring the northern part of this island through the old regional roads that zigzag across the valleys. Roads that are untouched for decades, giving you a sense of the real beauty of Madeira, a place that feels suspended in time, enveloped by that rich green blanket of nature everywhere you look. Along this trip, we went on dirt roads, a safari expedition through the dense forest and exotic vegetation I'd never imagined seeing. This has been some of the most exciting times we've had throughout this road trip. And it was time for a pit stop, seeing the traditional triangular-shaped thatched roof houses in Madeira, an icon of the Santana municipality. Brito took us to an existing house and was even greeted with a welcome drink, a homemade liquor made of anise. And here's what happened next. We stopped over at one of Madeira's most gorgeous viewpoints, Miradouro da Beira de Quinta, located in the coast of Arco São Jorge, and soaked up all that incredible, picture-perfect scenery. Next on our itinerary is a visit in the northern municipality of São Vicente, one of the most beautiful parts of Madeira, where lush mountains are in confluence with the sea. This has one of Madeira's most quintessential views, this white chapel of Nossa Senhora de Fátima, gracefully anointing this idyllic valley with the Laurisilva forest in the backdrop. Part of this tour is a visit to a winery and a vineyard, an afternoon that includes a wine tasting of some of Madeira's wines, and then followed by lunch, tucking into Madeirense cuisine. We headed to Quinta do Barbusano, known for its terraced vineyards, table wines, and a privileged view of this truly stunning landscape. We met the owner and wine producer Antonio Oliveira, who walked with us and showed us the vineyards, with the grapes planted on terraces and growing on latadas, or trellises, making use of the steep mountainous landscape. Antonio is now Madeira's largest vineyard owner, and Barbusano is now the biggest producer of table wines in the island, from his project that launched in 2006. But he says creating all of this was quite challenging, as for many years he had to accumulate 12 hectares of vineyards made of 88 plots and had to deal with 56 different owners. Barbusano's vineyards are spread throughout the island, but the base is here, in the beautiful valleys of São Vicente. He then showed us his portfolio of wines, which we happily tasted. First, a tasting of 6 wines, 3 whites made from the dominant grape variety Verdelho, and one that's blended with the German Arnsberger grape that grows well on the island. Then a wonderful rosé, mostly made from Tinta Negra, and 2 reds. One is the aromatic and herbaceous Aragonese, and the other is Antonio's field blend. As a bonus, we also get to taste his premium wines from his grapes grown in Porto Santo. One is blended with the grape Caracol, which is native to the Porto Santo island. We were fully engaged with his extra fresh, elegant wines, all embodying the terroir of Madeira, full of wonderful acidity and influence of the ocean. And then we indulged in a fantastic lunch, with the famous Madeiran beef skewers, or espetadas, using stalks of laurel grown in the property. Wine tastings and lunch surely couldn't get more authentic than this. We all headed back to Funchal in such ecstatic spirits, but before we ended this truly epic full-day tour, Brito treated us to one last stop on the road to taste Madeira's most famous and traditional cocktail, Poncha. We had this drink at Taberna da Poncha in Serra da Água, this popular tavern dedicated to making this drink made from aguardente, this local brandy drawn from sugarcane, mixed with a variety of juices including lemon, orange, and passion fruit. And the reaction? It's a strong, stiff drink that certainly reinvigorates anyone who drinks it. And this made such a fitting end to our first tour in this extraordinary island. A tremendous thank you to Brito and Adventureland Madeira for providing such a remarkable introduction to this unique island, for a day that's full of unforgettable moments and memories that will definitely stay with us beyond our time here. Now let me tell you about where we stayed in Madeira. This city that sprawled like a dramatic amphitheater between the mountains and the Atlantic Ocean is the city of Funchal, the historic capital of Madeira, and provides a natural base for all our explorations around this magical island. Any local will tell you of the island's incredibly vibrant cultural treasures, as well as its immensely historical and architectural heritage, or its balance between its colonial past and a modern urban landscape. But this island story began with nature and a discovery. Madeira itself is a Portuguese word for wood, pertaining to the dense forest found here during the 15th century Portuguese expedition, and Funchal is derived from Funchal, or fennel, due to the abundance of this wild herb on the island. The Portuguese navigators led by João Gonçalves Zarco, who accidentally landed on this archipelago back in 1419 en route to the west coast of Africa during the Age of Discovery, settled and colonized this island, its geographical location making it a perfect pit stop for ships to set out to the New World. The mineral-rich volcanic soil of this island provided a fertile ground for new settlers, leading to a thriving agriculture and producing three of Madeira's greatest exports: sugarcane, Madeira wine, and the flavorful Madeiran bananas. Walk through the center of Funchal and you'd find fortresses dotted around the city. In a panoply of historical buildings woven across tree-lined avenues and handsome squares and gardens, evoking a colonial past that's resiliently holding steadfast from the wave of modernity that's sweeping the city. The city's wealth is shown through its religious buildings such as Sé do Funchal or the Funchal Cathedral, a 15th century national monument that blends Gothic, Baroque, and Portuguese mandolin, both inside and out. The sugarcane business, for example, led to the immensely profitable sugar trade, which was considered white gold at the time, and Madeira was the biggest exporter of sugar in the world back in the 15th century, one that contributed to the enrichment of merchants in the Atlantic court in this island. Go to Arte Sacra Museum, or the Museum of Sacred Art, housed in the 16th century Bishop's Palace, where you'll find a collection of rare Flemish paintings bought and procured from the sugar trade boom of Madeira. The French and Italians came here. Even Christopher Columbus lived in this archipelago for some time, but perhaps none other than the British, who forged a huge influence in the story of Funchal and Madeira, arriving as early as the 16th century, and then later, in a pivotal move, drew Madeira into the English Atlantic trade route, which gave birth to the Madeira wine hegemony. The wine industry here flourished, and as a result, magnified the wealth of the English wine merchants that settled here, giving even more importance to Funchal as a major Atlantic port in the 18th and 19th centuries. Two of the British names you'll encounter on this island are Leacock and Blandys, both English merchants who later helped form the Madeira Wine Company. These wealthy families owned a few of the oldest stately homes in the island, spectacular heritage manor houses called Quintas. And we were incredibly fortunate to be able to stay and experience two of the oldest manor estates during our time here in Madeira. Madeira has so much to offer. In Funchal, we stayed in two heritage properties, two of some of the oldest manor houses in the entire island. First, we stayed in Quinta, Casa Branca, and secondly, we stayed right at this old manor house. It's Quinta, Jardins do Lago. First, we stayed at Quinta de Casa Branca, one of the most exclusive estates in Madeira, with a privileged location, tucked at a hidden and quiet corner of Funchal, with a short distance to the sea. A member of the small luxury hotels in the world, this Quinta is a vision of timelessness, balancing classic elegance with refined modernity. The estate and manor houses itself belongs to the Leacock family, a name known as one of the four famous producers of Madeira wine, and this was their family home since the 18th century. The manor is fully renovated, housing 5 luxurious and spacious suites, decorated to sophistication. And this mansion is a celebration of Portuguese antiques in the Grand Lounge, the piano room, and library. On the modern part, this architecture prize-winning triumph that opened in 1999 combines volcanic slate, natural wood, glass and steel that harmonize impeccably with its tranquil environment, with large glass windows and balconies that look out to aesthetically pleasing gardens, the hills of Funchal, and the sea. We had an absolutely superb stay here, and the refinement of this hotel is truly unparalleled. Whether you're strolling around its incredibly immaculate subtropical botanical gardens with a collection of colorful species from all over the world, or relaxing by the 2 heated pools in the absolute serenity surrounded by lush trees and a banana plantation. Quinta de Casa Branca ensures you a relaxing retreat at its most sublime, along with its full spa service. The hotel also offers world-class gastronomy, whether you're having a sumptuous breakfast at the Garden Pavilion or a hearty lunch at Casa de Quinta set in a 19th century building. And ultimately, take your taste buds for a treat at the glamorous dining room at the old manor, decked with Venetian chandeliers in an old-world elegance. As we dine al fresco at the terrace, spending a glorious evening of refined gastronomic excellence, loving every single dish and flavor, all oozing with contemporary touches, paired with superb wines throughout the evening. The serene atmosphere paired with the romantic charm of this property and incredible hospitality all make Quinta de Casa Branca a truly unforgettable place to stay in Funchal. And just when I thought it couldn't get any more beautiful, we took our grand journey up on the hills of Funchal, on a stately and gorgeous Madeiran estate, a historic property that undoubtedly elevates your stay on this island. This is Quinta Jardins do Lago. This alluring manor is one of the oldest and most renowned quintas in Madeira, previously known as Quinta da Chada, and this has been here since the 18th century. Home to a succession of Madeira wine merchants and families, at some point the home of the commander of the British forces, General Beresford, during the Napoleonic time, and later owned by the Linden Vineyard and Blandy families. Now turned into a luxury botanic garden hotel, Quinta Jardins do Lago affords a remarkably privileged view over Funchal, perched at the green slopes of these hills, encircled with an exquisite 2.5 acres of lush botanical gardens, with centuries-old trees and 500 species of plants and flowers that would make any nature lover fall in love with this stunning place. Staying here felt like stepping back in time, an era of yesteryears when voyage and travel were deemed romantic, and that nostalgic grandeur are preserved in the interiors of this residence, its rooms and suites, its formal dining rooms, balconies and terraces, overlooking the garden that seemed to welcome you in its embrace. This is a place where you can wake up afresh, enjoy a full and hearty breakfast in the sun-dappled veranda, surrounded by blossoming trees, and then spend a luxuriant day relaxing by the magnificent pool, jacuzzi, and spa area, or recline in the grounds with a view from Funchal around you. A few times I've lost myself walking and exploring the garden itself, with its collection of rare species, fruits and flowers, as if time has been suspended. A truly magical garden casting a spell on anyone who ventures in its folds. And at the end of the day, you can treat yourself to a sumptuous dining experience at the Beresford restaurant, conjuring a relaxed and sophisticated evening of fine dining, as we enjoyed local and international gourmet dishes outside on the terrace, under a beautiful frangipani tree, accompanied with live music of jazz and sophisticated melodies. We loved every single minute of our stay, along with such exceptional hospitality from everyone here, compelling you to stay longer, or even better, coaxing you to return again to this magical, harmonious retreat. Thank you to these two properties, Quinta Jardins do Lago and Quinta de Casa Branca, and a special recognition to the general manager of these two hotels, Alberto Reynolds, who made our stay in Funchal beyond extraordinary. We've spoken of Madeira's origins and rich volcanic soils. This place is often known as the Island of Eternal Spring, and it's no coincidence. Its geographical location between Europe and Africa meant warmer weather, and heat here is always tempered by the coolness of the ocean. The subtropical climate here is practically perfect all year round. The combination of these elements result in a vibrant spectacle of flora, making Madeira a feast for the eyes and the senses. In the city of Funchal itself, you'll find magnificent parks and gardens blooming in any season. In the municipal garden, you'll find a dazzling array of colors, from various species of trees and flowers, both indigenous to this island and from many parts of the world. But to take your botanical garden experience to entirely another level, I'd recommend you to take your journey high up in the city, in one of Funchal's most historic and noble districts, a place they call Monte. To go up there, you can either take the renowned Funchal cable cars, or drive through its precariously curvy and steep roads. Either way, Monte is a must visit, and it's home to some of Funchal's oldest spectacles, a botanical garden that will sweep you off and blow your mind. This is the Monte Palace Tropical Garden, and it's a taste of paradise up on the hills of Funchal. Once a property owned by the English consul, it had been bought and succeeded by the Portuguese, with a former Monte Palace hotel that's now a museum overlooking a majestic view of Funchal Bay. But the real jewel of this place is the garden itself, and walking through this vast green labyrinth is pure sensory overload, with its 1,000 cycads and centenary trees crowning over an extraordinary cornucopia of 100,000 exotic plant species hailing from all over the world. I personally couldn't help myself touching these old, ancient trees. Throughout the garden, you'll also see an assembly of modern art, Portuguese tiles, various sculptures and historical pieces. There's also a great fauna here, as you'll chance upon flamingos dawdling in ponds, as well as majestic swans and lakes, and Asian koi fishes everywhere. But my favorite is a beautifully conceived oriental garden, one that transports you into a Japanese-inspired vision, punctuated with Torii temple gates, pagodas, Buddhist sculptures, and oriental ornaments, surrounded by the great wealth of nature all around you. This garden is truly one of a kind in Madeira, and you certainly wouldn't miss this in your visit to Funchal. In all honesty, I didn't want to leave the botanical garden. I wished I could just be here all day. But we had other things to explore, and we grabbed a quick bite at Land Cafe, right next to the cable car station, with a terrace that's overlooking a great view. And then it was time to take our Monte Experience further by taking part in one of Madeira's most iconic attractions, a ride at a traditional wicker basket sledge at Arieiro do Monte. These wicker sledges have been used here since the early 19th century, when the local residents of the hillside village used these as a means of transport to travel swiftly from uptown Monte to downtown Funchal. And they're usually pushed by two drivers called carrieiros, who skillfully navigate the curvy roads in these hills. The ride takes about 10 minutes, across 2 kilometers and down 500 meters of altitude, and we were ready to take on this unusual experience, just like everyone else lining up the long queue for the rides. The excitement was mounting, and just before we knew it, we headed off downhill. This was such a fun ride, and we definitely enjoyed every second of this rather thrilling, one-of-a-kind experience in Monte. Last but not the least, a great kudos to the carrieiros themselves, who work hard day in and day out to make sure everyone gets a good and memorable ride down the slopes of Monte. So far, our stay in Madeira has given us so much joy, but this is just half of it. Coming up on part 2 of In the Mood for Madeira, we get to experience the island even more, as we taste the flavors of Madeira, go for an in-depth wine tour exploring the stunning wine region, and explore deeper the dazzling landscapes and breathtaking sceneries of this island. Stay tuned.